I'm Sarah. I'm going to be talking about guilt and health. So, what is guilt? It's an emotional experience after an unethical behavior. One of the researchers in one of the studies that I found describes it as a weight on one's conscience. And later we'll talk about how it's not just a weight on one's conscience, but on one's body as well. So, it can also be a guilty dog. It's so funny to me that dogs and cats, mostly dogs, they feel guilt a lot, just like people do. They are really bad at hiding it. It's written all over their face. This is my nephew right here. This is my roommate's dog. This is a dog who should feel guilty because he's just peed on the floor at PetSmart, but he is unapologetically himself, and we'll talk about later how guilt can be turned around into something positive, and he's obviously got that down. So, some health implications and studies. The scope of health is massive, and guilt is also kind of a big, broad subject, so I decided to focus on a couple of specific things, mostly body dysmorphic disorder. It's really intriguing. It can be likened to social phobia or erythrophobia, which is literally embarrassed of being embarrassed, or the fear of blushing. As a pale person, when I blush, it is very, very obvious, so I can kind of see where this is coming from. So, with a lot of these disorders, they are afraid of being observed. They avoid visual exposure. They can become really reclusive, and as health majors, we all know that, being away from people and being by yourself all the time indoors can be really damaging to not only your physical health, but your mental health as well, and your emotional state. With body dysmorphic disorder, they're focused on the gaze of others rather than the focus of themselves. They're obsessed on their perceived flaws. They have a hard time accepting compliments. These are all things that can lead to depression, and it's kind of a spiral. It's all these little things that build up and kind of tear you down all the time, and it can get really, really, really bad for a lot of these people. It's really a debilitating disorder. And with these pictures that I have, a lot of the people will look in the mirror and they see someone that is not themselves, or they'll see someone who is totally deformed. And it's a really terrible thing. So, let's see. A couple of the studies that I have are, well, it was one study, but there were kind of 4 methods within this study. I'm going to talk about 1 and 4 because they kind of represent the study as a whole, and they kind of tie everything together. So, study 1, the participants were asked to recall an unethical deed, and then they were asked, how much do you think you weigh? Are you average? Are you less than your average? Or do you feel that you're more than your average? They had a control group, and the control group stayed consistent throughout the study. They reported their perceived weight first before the emotional recall. And the group that was asked about their guilty emotions before asked about their weight, they reported weighing more than their average weight. Which, as I talked about in the first slide about guilt being a weight on the conscience, it's also a weight on the body, as evident from the study. The 4th method was very similar. The participants were asked to recall unethical deeds that made them feel guilty, memories. And they were asked about daily tasks like carrying groceries upstairs. Don't lie, you've all been there. And they were asked about the perceived physical effort that they would need to exert to complete these tasks. And it was all really daily stuff, like doing laundry and carrying groceries, things that you do all the time. And the participants that were recalling guilty memories reported having to exert more physical effort to complete these really simple tasks, which is really interesting to think about guilt being like an actual physical weight on the body rather than, just an emotion. I mean, emotions can weigh us down too, but this study really, it's written right here. So how do you use it? I have a video from Oprah. Her guest speaker is Iyanla Vanzant, and she says to take guilt and turn it around. So let's watch her.
So a lot of people confuse guilt with shame. You say they're cousins. I say they're cousins, kissing cousins. Shame says there's something wrong with who I am. It's intrinsic.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it. Guilt says there's something wrong with what I've done.
Or am doing.
Yeah, so I feel guilty about it. Even people now feel guilty about what they think,
Yeah.
what they say. Both of them, well, shame is a little deeper. Guilt, however, is a wasted emotion.
That's what I say.
It's a wasted emotion because the minute you find that there's something wrong or out of alignment, you're out of order in what you're thinking or doing, do something else. That'll resolve.
What are the three main reasons that people feel guilty?
I think the first one is that we either have a premonition, a predisposition. We know that what we're doing is out of order, and you do it anyway.
Right.
Well, then eat yourself up. The second thing is when we know we cause hurt, harm, danger to someone.
Yeah.
That will lead us guilt. We look at what we did and how it hurt somebody.
Shouldn't you feel guilty about that?
Well, no. I think you can make amends.
Okay.
And you can do better next time. What does guilt serve? It doesn't serve anything other than the ego.
Okay.
Which is to take you out of
the
your love.
acknowledgement that you cause hurt, harm, or danger.
Acknowledgement.
You cause that to somebody is not the same thing as feeling guilty about it.
No.
Yeah.
Acknowledge it. Ask for forgiveness of yourself first and then of other people if you can. And if you can do something to make amends,
Yes.
then that will release you from the karmic tie to that action.
Okay.
And the third one, I think, is when we disappoint or upset someone
Right.
that we love or care about, then we go into guilt. That's the children.
Yeah.
Mothers play that guilt card all the time. Oh, look how you made me feel. Oh, you're giving me a headache. Oh, you broke my heart.
Right. So at the end of this life class, what we want is to substitute that emotion of guilt, replace it with what is real and that can be active in getting you to move on.
Yeah, it could be self-forgiveness. It could be asking for forgiveness. It could be making amends. And it could be just slapping yourself upside the head because you've just been wasting time and energy. Oh,
Right.
my Lord.
Okay, so what she's talking about is, what we've been talking about in class is mindfulness. And being aware of yourself and being present in the moment and not focusing on what you're going to do tomorrow or what you did yesterday, focusing on you right now. So my questions to you are, 1, how do you feel that guilt may be affecting your daily life? And if you don't think it's affecting your daily life at all, think really hard. Because I didn't think it was, and then I thought about it for a couple minutes, and I was like, ooh, I could change some stuff, So number 2, do you believe that guilt is a wasted emotion? And are there any emotions that you would consider to be wasteful, like Iyanla was talking about? Guilt is really only self-serving in a negative way, really. It's, sitting there feeling guilty and sorry for yourself and shameful is not going to make anything better. What is going to make it better is, like she said, asking for forgiveness, forgiving yourself, doing something about it, and actually being present in the moment and acting and acknowledging the fact that you've done something wrong. So number 3, per Iyanla's advice, how would you go about using guilt to improve your health? So think about those. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Here are my references in case you were just dying to know. Thank you.